Goodness gracious. It's been so long since I've done a vlog. I am so sorry for not putting videos up. All I can say is that it has just been one thing after another, craziness, and I'm trying so hard to make it through my CNA class. Excuse the fact that I have absolutely no makeup on. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I have a few minutes to try to throw some makeup on real quick, but I was like, I have to do some type of update. I'm on day 14 of the CNA program. I have started clinicals now. I have exams every day. I actually have a midterm today, so fingers crossed, wish me luck on that. Started slipping a little bit because things just got real complicated, and it's really hard to juggle everything. Props to all of the moms out there, all the people out there, fathers, people in general, anybody who is not a parent but you're juggling school and work and everything, it's just props to us who want to try to do extra things and better ourselves, even in weight loss too, it's so hard to maintain all that. So I just don't ever want to forget to give myself a little pat on the shoulder, a little pat on the back, and say that, I'm doing a good job and you're doing a good job too, So anyways, yeah, it's intense. It's more than I ever really expected it to be, being a CNA. I've watched a couple vlogs on YouTube, and, I was like, what are they talking about? What is it? But it's so intense. It's more than just changing briefs, and helping people to the bathroom. And it is so big, it's so labor. So much labor is involved in that, and people weigh a lot, and people can't move, and people are clenched, and you have to try to move them back and forth in their bed, and you have to try to, get them to places, and it can take 4 hours. It took 4 hours for me one morning to, wake somebody up and, excuse me, change the brief and feed them breakfast and give them a bed bath, or try to get them all the way to the shower and get their clothes on. It is so, it's just exhausting. And to think that for one person I had to do that, and you can have from 8 to 13 residents, depending on if it's a morning shift or a night shift. I don't know how they do it. I don't. Because at this point, since I'm, brand new, I'm nervous that I'm going to hurt them. So I can't be real fast with them, and I can't be just, I don't know. I think it's just like when you have a baby, you're so afraid they're so fragile that you're going to hurt them. But, of course you have to be careful with them, but, you start, after the second and third one, or after a couple months of having a baby, you got the routine down, of how to change a diaper, how to bathe them, how to put a shirt over their head, all that stuff. So there's definitely a protocol too. There's a protocol for on the weaker side and the stronger side, and for taking them here and there. And it's a no lift facility, so we have different type of mechanical lifts. I never even thought about that. I don't know what I was thinking. Lots of stuff that I never ever thought. There's definitely a lot of differences between a CNA and a medical assistant. Medical assistant is just straightly in the doctor's office, and of course they're both extremely respectable jobs, but they're different. I don't really know the difference in pay at this point. It really just depends, if you're newly out of school. I would say it's in the same realm. I actually think that possibly a CNA might make less. But then again, it depends if you're in a hospital or if you're in a in a a long-term care facility place, like a nursing home or what. But as a medical assistant, I felt like I had kind of, topped off at that, and I wanted to take myself, further. So I do have to remind myself, and you do have that thing where you kind of have the other, nurses or the CNA, since we're students, kind of telling us what to do, and kind of, I don't know, I think it's all, there's definitely seniority and stuff like that. But, we're there to learn, and I have to keep telling myself that, this is not going to be my job forever, and then I'm doing this as a prerequisite to get into the LVM program, and that's what my ultimate goal is. And I'd have to say the thing that I enjoy the most right now about, my clinical time, because it used to be that I would have theory, and we would do a test, and we would have lecture, and then we would go to clinical, and now we go to clinical in the morning for 4 hours. I had asked, is it possible for us to change our clothes, when we go back to clinical? And she was like, no, unless you put on another pair of white scrubs again. And I'm like, I don't want to change again, and, I guess I just feel after I bathe them and stuff, I just don't want to be in these clothes. But, yeah, I definitely I'm kind of a germaphobe, and so I want to be clean. Like, I don't even want to touch the kids when I pick them up. I want to shower first before I bathe them, you know? But anyways, my favorite part about the clinicals, or about what I'm enjoying right now, is when I'm feeding them, because, you know, they all have to have different consistencies, you know? So they kind of put stuff in their drinks and stuff to make it a little bit thicker, or they'll like puree some of their food, you know, kind of like baby food. It's really important that you don't call them names like honey or sweetie, and I do see that a lot. You know, and you don't call, you know, if they are incontinent, you know, which is like, you know, not able to control themselves when they go to the bathroom, they have to wear briefs, but they really, you know, they're like, you know, they look like grown-up diapers or pull-ups, you know, but it's really, really important that, you know, you treat them with dignity, and that you think about whether or not, you know, that would be your loved one or you one day. And when I feed them, you know, and I talk to them, you know, sometimes they answer back and they talk, and some of them can't, but I know that they just like the conversation, you know. So yesterday I said, good morning, and I said, do you remember me from yesterday? She goes, oh, yeah. And I said, you remember me? And I think she's got a little bit of Alzheimer's or dementia, because, like, when I asked her, I said, you know, I have some apple juice, and I have some orange juice, and I have some milk here. What do you like? She said, I don't know. And I said, do you want some milk? She goes, oh, milk? No. And I said, how about some orange juice? So she took a sip of orange juice, and then she took a sip of apple juice. She goes, oh, apple juice is lovely. And I said, I know, apple juice is so good, isn't it? And it was just, I don't know, it's a fun part, because I can just chat. I even asked her, like, have you ever watched Green Acres before? Have you ever watched General Hospital? Oh, General Hospital. I said, my grandma used to watch General Hospital. I still have to see what's going on General Hospital. And I'll be like, Luke and Laura are still on there, you know. If you know General Hospital, you know Luke and Laura. Laura is, you know, off and on, but Luke is still on there, original, you know, from like years and years ago. So I think of things to talk about that maybe that they know, or I'll talk about my kids and say some funny things. It's actually really funny. So I told Isaiah once, I mean, I didn't even think he was really listening to me. I said, you know, you have to drink a lot of water, or else you're going to get dehydrated. And if you go pee-pee and your pee-pee is really, really yellow, it means you're dehydrated. It has to be really, really light, or it has to be clear. You know, that means that you're getting enough water. So, yeah, see, I'm going to have a lot of, like, jokes like this because I'm in the CNA program, so I apologize if it's gross to you guys. But, like, Isaiah walks in the bathroom when Elijah's going to the bathroom. He goes, oh, Elijah, you need to drink more water. You're really dehydrated. Your pee is too yellow. And I just thought it was so funny. That was kind of funny. I was, like, telling a joke and I got cut off because I'm using my phone and I have probably, like, 1 or 2 more minutes left of space left. But I just wanted to say I'm waiting for my older son, Elijah, to get out of school right now. And I was able to get the results for my midterm that I took. And I got a 99%. And I'm so happy. I'm kind of kicking myself because the one question that I got wrong, I was like overthinking way too much. And it was like such a basic thing. It was like droplets in the air consist of coughing and sneezing, talking, etc. And I was like, I know it's coughing and sneezing for sure, but I don't think it's talking. I don't think you can get droplets in the air by talking, and then etc. What does etc. mean, you know? So I thought it was like kind of a trick question, because sometimes they'll put those kind of things on tests where they'll sound like it's the right one, you know what I mean? It's like a trick thing. Or they'll say, what do you not do? And you really have to look out, especially when you're super spaced and tired. So I think I just overthunk it too much, or whatever. I was overthinking it too much. And if I had gotten it right and gone with my gut, because it was a true or false, and just put true, I would have got 100%. But praise God for getting 99%, because I felt like I was kind of slipping, you know, and I mean, I definitely was studying, and it just totally pays to study, doesn't it? It just so pays to study. So anyways, yeah, I have homework to do tonight, but when I get home, I'm either going to like organize my clothes or just cook a real nice dinner and turn some music on and just zone out before I have to get my head back in the books again. And I just want to tell you guys that I got a good grade on my test. I'm real happy about that. Bye.